everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about all of the eyeshadow pans I've hit so far this year. I've actually done it in order of total uses to hit pan because I do track my uses every year on eyeshadows, and so some of the uses are still from last year, but yeah, I have 32 eyeshadow pans that I've hit so far this year. I'm not including any spoilers. I have hit a few more this month, but I am going to wait until I talk about them in videos because I do not want to spoil. So this is up until I would say the end of June, maybe right at the beginning of July. So pretty recent, but still in the last week I have hit a few. So as I said, they are not going to be here. I still think 32 is pretty good. It's nothing like some other people, Misty, but you know what? I think it's still a pretty good job, especially since I've been slacking off quite a bit the last month and a half. So if you're interested to see which eyeshadow pans I have hit this year, then stay tuned. I have my 2 stacks of eyeshadow palettes right here, and I'm excited to talk through them. Okay, so the first one is actually from my Honey Colourpop palette. This one is Buzzkill, which I was trying to hit pan on for my project level up. I had this palette for level 3, so I actually hit pan in 3 shades, but the first one I actually used it 32 times to hit pan on, and it is this one right here. This one was so annoying. 26 of those uses was this year, so most of the uses was in that project. And I'm very happy that I stuck through it. I carried on, but it just goes to show Colourpop shades do take, especially mattes, they take a bit of time. They're just deep and they're like fully packed in there. They're pigmented most of the time. So, you know, they're notorious for trying, you know, I find it hard to hit pan on Colourpop. So that is the one that took me the most uses to hit pan on. So coming in at number 2 is from the Juvia's Place, the Bronze Rustic, and it is this second shade right here. I had this in my Zodiac Panna project all of last year and then at the beginning of this year, and I finally hit pan after a total of 26 uses. So this one took me a bit of time as well. 21 of those uses was last year and only 5 this year, which is kind of interesting. It took me, yeah, pretty much a whole year to hit pan on this shade. These are incredibly pigmented. I wouldn't even say that the pans are all that deep. It's just this particular shade was super pigmented. It's not a shade that I can whack over all over the lids anyway. It's very vibrant, but I'm very happy that I stuck by it because it is one of my favorite shades that I have because it's pretty unique and I do like it. So that one, yeah, that one was 2nd place. Okay, going back into the Honey, we've got Totally Bugging, and this one took me 24 uses, so a long time still. Again, I had it in my project level up, so most of the uses were from this year. Yeah, 21 uses were this year, so it was mostly in that project, but I'm very happy that I did. I had quite a nice little crater in there now. And I got so sick of mustard looks, I haven't dipped into them since. All right, moving on, we've got the Huda Beauty Desert Dust. This is current project level up, and this shade right here I hit pan on earlier, I want to say like a month and a half ago, and this one took me 23 uses to hit pan on. 14 of them were this year, so again mostly in that project level up that I was able to hit pan on that. Then we've got Amethyst, which I also hit pan on right in the early part of this year. This also took me a total of 23 uses to hit pan on, but only 8 of those uses were this year's because I hit pan on it pretty early on. Going back into my palette from Colourpop, I can't say this name. We've got Sunburst. This took me 21 uses again in my project level up, but I was very excited to hit pan on this. I really do like this shade. It's a really beautiful shimmer. And yeah, I'm excited that I have so many pans in my Honey. Of course, mine looks different to yours because I did rearrange it, but I kept the 3 pans in there just so I can show it off. All right, then we've got a new one. This is one that I just hit pan on. This is from the Kaleidos Club Nebula palette. And this one took me 19 uses in total to hit pan, and it is the Rock Hopper shade. I just had it in my Pan Nose eyeshadows, and I actually only used it 5 times this year. So most of the uses was from last year because I did try to hit pan on it last year or the year prior to that. I had it in a Pan Nose eyeshadows at some point, but I gave up. So I finally was able to hit pan on it this year, which I am excited about. Then we have my Retro Paradise palette from e.l.f. This is my pan up palette for the year. And the next shade that I hit pan on that took me 19 uses as well is the Dijon shade. And I hit pan on this at the same time that I was working on the Aha Honey. So I was just doing honey looks for a good 2 months straight and I got very, very sick of it. But yeah, it took me 19 uses, which is kind of surprising because these e.l.f. palettes are very shallow and most of the time I'm able to hit pan a lot faster than that. I think it's just because of the color. I just wasn't a fan of it, and yeah, I don't know why it took me so long. Another one I have in this palette is the Coconut shade, which took me 16 uses to hit pan on, and then since then I've been using it even more. Then we have a shade in the Norvina palette from ABH. I hit pan on Wild Child. This was in my Zodiac Panner, and I want to say this was at the beginning of the year or maybe the second month of the year. And this one also took me 16 uses in total to hit pan on. Which honestly doesn't sound like a lot. I always say ABH takes me forever to hit pan on, but 16 uses is pretty average, so I think I was just slow rolling it. Then we've got another Huda Beauty palette. This is the Naughty Nude, and I hit pan in Naughty at the beginning of the year as well. I think this was in, again, my Project Level Up. Project Level Up has really helped me hit pan, I want to say. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've hit a lot of pan so far in that project, so that's been really helpful. But anyway, I hit pan when this was my level 2, and this one took me 15 uses in total to hit pan on. Okay, and then we've got my Sample Beauty, the Equalizer Volume 2. This was in my Pan Those eyeshadows a few months ago. I was working on the shade On right here, and this one took me a total of 15 uses as well. And I want to say, 14 of those was this year, 1 was last year. So I don't know what I was doing last year, maybe just testing it out. But yeah, pretty much 15 uses. I haven't hit pan anything else in this palette, so I don't know if that's the average. I would expect it would be. They're not that deep, and they are pigmented, but I don't know, I was just able to use it in the outer corner, and only 15 times, so that wasn't so bad. Right, and then another new one that I have is from the Desert Dusk, and this is Twilight. I hit pan on this just a few weeks ago, and that took me 13 uses in total to hit pan on. So yeah, the mattes definitely take me longer with Huda Beauty. I know this one took me like 20 something uses, but I hit pan at the end of last year. Back to my Retro Paradise palette. So let's talk about Sandy Bum. Sandy Bum is this one right here, which is almost gone. It took me 12 uses to hit pan. Obviously since then I've used it a lot more, but at the time that I hit pan, I had only used it 12. All right, so next up we've got the Tokyo palette from Nomad, and the shade that I hit pan on is the Melty Room right here. This was in my Zodiac Panner last year, and I brought it back this year because I wanted to hit pan on it. It took me a total of 13 uses to hit pan in this. Okay, back to my e.l.f. Retro Paradise palette. I hit pan in Spiced not so long ago, and this one took me a total of 11 uses. In the same palette we have Fuego, that also took me 9 uses to hit pan on. So my averages is pretty low actually for this palette. So as I said, this shade taking 26 uses as opposed to these only taking 11 is a little bit strange to me. All right, then we have another Huda Beauty palette. This is the Mercury Retrograde. And I hit pan in the shade Super Moon. It took me 9 uses because these are very creamy and flaky, so does not take a lot. I mean, you can see my finger in there. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to hit pan on, and yeah, maybe I go in too deep, I don't know, but it wasn't a struggle to hit pan in this one, and I do like this shade. All right, back to my Tokyo palette from Nomad. A lot of these, you know, are in the same palettes because I kind of, you know, I like to have multiple pans in one palette. I just don't want to have just one pan. But yeah, the next one is Moshi Moshi, and that also took me 9 uses to hit pan. I've got a single that I hit pan on. This is from the e.l.f. Electric Mood palette, which I depotted, and the shade that I hit pan on is a Pound Coin, which is, which one was it? This one right here, and that one took me 9 uses in total as well. So again, another e.l.f. one. The shades are very shallow. Then I hit pan in one of my Pastel Roses shades. The Solar Ash, I had this in my Pan Those eyeshadows since the beginning of the year, and it took me a few months to hit pan on it. It became very flaky and I lost quite a bit of product, so I think that's why I was able to hit pan on it. It took me a total of 9 uses. Again, a lot of these are 9 uses. Then we've got one of my newest pans from the MAC Star Sighting palette in Fuchsia, and this one took me only 8 uses in total. I used it 4 times in the project, and I had used it 4 times previously that I had tracked. I might have used it more times because it's an older palette for me, but I've only marked it 8 times in total since I've had it, which is kind of crazy. Then we've got a pan in my Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette that I hit this year, and in the shade Bloodstone, which is one of my newest pans that I hit, which was actually outside of a project, and this also took me a total of 8 uses that I've been able to track. Another one that took me 8 uses is from the BH Cosmetics Summer in Saint-Tropez, and it is this blue shade Pampelone over here, and that one I had in my Zodiac panner, I believe. These pans are very shallow too, so I'm not surprised by that. I am surprised I still haven't hit pan in this, but I think I'm very, very close. So one of these days I will. I hit pan in another single from the Electric Mood palette from e.l.f., which I depotted. And this one is right here. That one also took me 8 uses. So many 8 and 9 uses ones. Okay, back to my e.l.f. Retro Paradise palette. There are some other shades in here that I've hit pan on recently. The Baja Ma shade, I actually hit pan on this earlier the beginning of the year. And this one only took me 6 uses in total. It's just not a shade that I like, and I remember packing it on a lot because the pigment isn't very good anymore. So when I did go into it, I used a lot because it just kept disappearing. Back to the Kaleidos palette, the Club Nebula. I hit pan in Nova, and that one took me 6 uses as well. A really beautiful shade, but these shades are very creamy, and they're the types that I really like and enjoy, and it's really not hard, you know, once you get into it, to hit pan on these shimmers. They're just very beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, back to the Mercury Retrograde from Huda Beauty. I hit pan in Gold Glitch, and this only took me 6 uses as well. Again, another creamy, beautiful shimmer, and these formulas are my favorites. So definitely, this is my all-time favorite shade from Huda Beauty that I have tried and that I own. I just think it's a really gorgeous, gorgeous shade, and I don't want to finish it because it's so beautiful. All right, back into my e.l.f. Retro Paradise palette. I hit shade in Disco this year, and this one took me 5 uses only. I do think, though, I got this palette quite a long time ago, and I don't think I have all of the uses. So obviously at the point that I started tracking it, which was in 2021, then, you know, I would have all the uses since then, but I got this in 2020. So there might have been obviously plenty more use that I'm not able to track, but it is what it is. From what I have tracked, it only took me 5 uses. All right, and then we've got my Book of Magic from Beauty Bay. This one I hit pan in a lot of shades last year, but this year it's only popped up once. The shade that I worked on is Cast, and I worked on that in my Pan Those eyeshadows. I think it was my Pan Those eyeshadows earlier this year, and that one only took me 5 uses as well. Beauty Bay are very shallow pans. They don't take a long time to hit. And then we've got another Beauty Bay. This is the Techni Days palette, which is very underrated. I really do like this palette. And I hit pan in Spectrum, and that also took me 5 uses to hit pan on. And then last but not least is in my Stone Vibes palette from Urban Decay. I hit pan in Raw Energy, and this one technically took me 2 uses in my notes, but I know that I used this way more than only 2 uses. Again, it's like the e.l.f. Retro Paradise. I've had this palette for a long time since obviously it released, and I didn't track all of my uses right when I got it. So I definitely have used this more than 2 times, but in my spreadsheet, it only says 2 times, but I hit pan it this year, so I'm very excited. So there you have it. Those are my 32 eyeshadow pans that I've hit so far this year. If I can do double that by the end of the year, that would be really cool and amazing. I don't have a goal in mind in terms of a particular number. I will say though, I'm doing better in terms of pan percentage, if that means anything to anyone. I know I don't ever comment it on anymore. I think I know at the beginning of the year, I said what my pan percentage was for the last year, and I can give you a little bit of an update now what my pan percentage is, because it has gone up, which is good, even though I have continued to buy palettes. But at the end of last year, my pan percentage was 5.36%, which is very low considering I had over 1,000 pans of eyeshadow and I only had like 50 or so pans at the time. Since then, it has gone up to 7.41%, even though I have these big, huge palettes from P. Louise, Beauty Bay palettes and everything like that, and all of my GlossGods. I actually have ended up decluttering 2 palettes in the meantime behind the scenes. My mother did take away 2 palettes, which I'll talk about in a palette declutter video I think I'm going to plan on doing, because I do have some palettes that I do want to retire and just decide that I no longer want to work on them. There's also a few other palettes that are kind of looking a little bit iffy. They're getting a little bit of mold and things like that, and that's just not something that I want to mess with. So I'll talk about that in another video. But yeah, it's gone from like 5% to over 7%, which I think is pretty cool because the number of eyeshadow pans has actually gone up. It's just I have a lot more eyeshadow pans now in total, and it's leveling up and it's going up. If I can get to 10% at some point, that would be really cool. That would obviously be a goal of mine, but if I don't, then that's fine too. I don't mind, but it's just fun to see which palettes I've hit pan in the most and all of the different shades. Definitely Project Level Up, Pan Those Eyeshadows, and Zodiac Panner have helped me the most in the last couple of years to hit pan, but specifically the last 6 months, Project Level Up has helped me hit pan in a lot of shades in eyeshadows, which is great. I mean, that's what the project is all about. So if I can continue the momentum for the rest of the year, I think I'll be very happy. But yeah, if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.